So we are here live in Montgomery, Alabama. Upbeat Xander's enjoying a salad as he does before matches. That's how he wins, quite honestly.
I'm using that dice.
We'll take a look at the venue here. Come see the great Shane Knowles. Yeah, we got a CheapHeatTV exclusive, a little behind the scenes here at the venue.
Montgomery, Alabama.
Prestige Continental Pro Wrestling here at the STD Games.
The STP.
Scott Morgan making his way. Again, Xander's the only one eating a salad. Make what you will of that. I don't know. Yeah, you can't. Montgomery's not classy enough to have gas station sushi like Booneville, Mississippi. You see, there's X-Pac.
If our cameraman
He's got 2 words for you. I promise.
The roadside sign says topless barmaids, free beer, and false advertising.
Which, you gotta admit, that's pretty clever. We'll be back with more updates here live from Montgomery, Alabama at the Prestige debut show at STD Games, or whatever it's called.
Hey guys, well, welcome back to another episode of CheapHeatTV. I am Scott E. Morgan, and thanks for joining us here tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and go right into my intros, which is pretty much all I'm good for now. But bringing up first, the king of all wrestling media, Gene Jackson. Come on, man. There.
Okay, what's happening here? All right, hey Scott, how's it going?
Smokey's a little off his game, though. I get it. It's fine, man. We're all a little tired.
Smokey hung out with Xander's earlier, if that tells you anything.
Smokey's been smoking.
Oh, Kayfabe.
And of course, let's bring up our other counterpart, the Prince of Pep, Upbeat Xanders.
God damn it, Smokey! I'm sorry.
There he is.
I'm cussing early. I'm sorry. Prince of Pep is maybe not the appropriate term for me this evening to go get to the podcast, but hey, I'm happy to be here. I've got a background. Got a new background.
Say Hep C?
No.
Oh.
No, definitely not. I'm back in glasses. Y'all got to see me in rare form because I wore contacts last night. And there's not an enormous glare on my screen, but unbelievably Dr. as always. What's up, guys?
I was looking at the screen and I see you're taking roll call and I see Scott E. Morgan. I see Upbeat Xanders. I see myself. I know Smokey's on the boards. There's something missing.
Again,
I can't put my finger on.
It's why I can't be peppy right now because I want to strangle.
Are we back to being a trio now? Is that what's happening? Or did somebody turn in their notice and I didn't see it, or what's going on?
Smokey might not be sending out emails correctly again. It might be a company to Gmail problem. I don't know. I'm frustrated.
Well, I mean, so not to spoil everything, but so tonight's podcast we've been promoting all week was about a super secret kayfabe wrestling show that happened last night. And if you just saw the intro, you've seen that it happened in Montgomery, Alabama.
It happened. A great intro, by the way. That was very entertaining. I was gonna go like behind the curtains before we get too deep into the show because I know we're kind of
we're killing time anyways.
We're killing time anyways. So I just went around, and of course I didn't have the camera crew with me. We're trying to get a camera crew, guys. We're gonna be able to go around and get a little bit more interviews and stuff. But I went around and just asked how many people who knew Mako more than 6 months how much they detest his punctuality and inability to be prompt or answer people correctly. And it seems to be a consensus.
Or a
It's,
sense of direction.
It's a real issue in his life, apparently.
Or directions, because he sent us and poor old Dawson all over Montgomery, and Dawson does not need to be in Montgomery.
Steve Pleasing says Xander's look like he has to teach science during the day.
No.
That map is definitely adding to the
It's a
whole
good
science
ambiance.
/geography teacher vibe you got going on.
We live somewhere within here. I'm sorry.
Before we went on the air, when you stepped away to get your glasses or whatever it was, I told Scott, I'm like, how ironic is it? A guy that don't want to travel 30 miles from his freaking house has got a map of the world on his damn wall back there.
That boy traveled.
Never see.
That boy traveled all over the place. I went to California, man. Lay off.
Yeah, not for wrestling. I mean, as long as there ain't a wrestling ring involved, you'll go all over the world. But you ask Xander to leave his house for wrestling, he gets all grumpy.
I did a dark match last night. I
wanted Mako to be here and talk about this sheer elation he had as a promoter of his very first event yesterday, to not get that dreaded call from Xanders on Saturday morning. I'm like, hey, man, I don't think I'm going to make it. And if I'm not going to make it, then Scott's not going to make it. And Gene ain't driving through Birmingham, so then Gene's not going to make it. So none of us is going to be there today. But, I mean, you kind of had to figure that, right? See you, buddy. So I figured he was pretty excited when we pulled up yesterday. But now he has no-showed us. So, I mean,
we were early. We were early, too.
Yeah. Despite having the wrong address and going to a different part of Montgomery.
And it taking me 8 minutes to find a shirt, but that's a whole other story.
So, 3 of the baddest dudes in the business. Well, bless your heart, Mark Bryson. That's a nice thing to say. We appreciate that.
Unfortunately, it can't be a 4th.
But I don't think we can stretch this a whole lot longer, because much like last week, we may not see Mako tonight. So last night was the debut show of Prestige Continental Pro Wrestling, put on by Shane Mako in Montgomery. He set the whole thing up. It was his show. Everything about it was his show. And we were just there as participants, if you will. And so the plan for tonight's show was to talk about how the show came together, why the show was kept a secret, what was it like putting on his first show, what was, the good, the bad, the ugly, the unexpected. It's kind of hard to do that when he's not here. I mean, we can talk about it from our point of view, but it wasn't our show. And he probably don't want us to do that, but it's fixing to happen here in a minute, because we got an hour to kill and we don't have any other topics on board.
No, we're good, man.
But so
the locker room was nice. Do you want to talk about the locker room?
Maker's not here, so when he shows up, we'll tag him in if he shows up. But so all we knew was that Mako had lined up this show, and that it was at a gaming bar. Was that what you would call that? I mean, it was a bar where they do gaming, which I didn't. That was a thing, but it is. So let's take
STG.
Yeah, so GTS Games. We'll get it eventually. GTS South Games, not even the title. What are we? Okay. So anyway, GT South. We finally find this place. This is the first thing you see when you pull in. This sign: topless barmaids, free beer, false advertising. Which, I mean, that popped me. That's pretty. It's pretty darn amusing. You have to admit.
Clever, super clever. Unfortunately, the address that comes from Google, do not take the address that goes with Google.
No, it will not take you there.
It'll take you to a bowling alley, which seemed pretty nice. There was a Chick-fil-A right up the road.
Was that like a Hispanic bowling alley? Because it was called Bolero, and I was like, is this like?
I don't know. We didn't get to go into bowling. I wish we would. Next time, I'm all for it going bowling.
Yeah, I mean, we'll challenge Takuri to a bowl off, and they can chant, "This is bowling." But anyway, we'll get to that. So anyway, Prestige Continental finally comes to life at GT South. Again, a gaming bar of some description.
There was people there, man. It was packed out.
So we pull up, and you see what you just saw in that video in the opening is what we saw is Shane Knowles starting to put together a wrestling ring in this random grassy area over behind this bar, and a bunch of chairs inside a fenced in area that was quite a ways away from where the ring was being set up. And there's vines and grass and shit in the fence that you got to see through. And so we started eating our Chick-fil-A because we're all hungry, and we shoot that little video that you just saw. And the first thing I notice is this event's going to be taking place starting up around 7-ish. And there's one light on a post about 40 feet away from the ring or more. And I'm like, is that all the light we got back here, Mako? And Mako takes a quick look around and goes, yeah, man, I think so. And I knew he had a guy there that was shooting it, 2 cameras. He had a hard camera, and then he was roaming around with another camera, and he had, to his credit, a set of microphones that were attached to me and the other commentator, which was very nice. You know, usually when certain other friends of ours set up commentary, it's just a recorder and a table sitting between you, and you just got to kind of yell into it like fucking idiots.
Yeah, y'all did commentary. Y'all got to do commentary for the entire show, so y'all really got to go hard deep into that stuff, didn't you? I don't know how much deep we want to get into it because my understanding it was a little bit blue.
To say the least. But I mean, that's what his comedy buddy, you know, went hard in the paint right out of the gate, and I'm like, well, you know, far be it from me to try to be the clean one.
You've hung out with Waddy a few times, and it's kind of made you a little blue around the edges sometimes.
Oh, yeah, because I never was previously. But anyway, we kind of blow off the whole lighting issue, and the ring gets set up. And come to find out, we would find out later that the fenced in, the chairs being in the fenced in area was by design because people who brought drinks from the bar could not have them outside that fenced in area. We know this because at one point, Xanders nearly walked out of the fenced in area with a drink in his hand. I don't know if there was any alcohol in it or not.
Dr. Pepper.
But a guy who strongly resembled X-Pac, who we gave a different nickname to, we won't say it here.
Meth Pop.
Okay.
Yeah, we will.
Normally, I would be getting mean mug for being the one to say it, and it's Xander saying it, but that's cool. But yeah, Meth Pac threatened to give him the Bronco Buster
working blue tonight.
if he went outside the fenced-in area. But anyway, all the workers made it who were still booked, including one in particular who was a recent guest on the show. We won't mention by name for reasons we can't say.
Kayfabe, super Kayfabe. I appreciate it. If he listens to this, I love it. But he's my friend.
Great job. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, he's going to be on the show again.
We'll talk about why your secret is safe here in a few minutes. But, so everybody gets there, and the matches, you know, they make out the card, and so there's a guy, I guess, who worked for the bar who was the ring announcer, and like I say, me and this other guy who's a comedian were doing the commentary, and they were just like, hey, we're going to clip this shit to your shirt. You can sit anywhere you want. Cool. Okay. Oh, I like that, you know. So we go around there. The show's supposed to start at 7. Now it's like 7:30-ish. And we go out there, and it's dark. I mean, that one light ain't even coming close to reaching that ring. It's lighting up. It's lighting up that one corner of the grass over there, not really the ring. So Mako's like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, man, the only thing I can think of is get some people to pull their vehicles around here and put their headlights on the ring. I mean, that's all I can see happening. I was like, but there's going to have to be somebody stay in those cars and turn them on and off every so often because, one, it's going to run their battery down. Two, the lights in all the new age cars shut themselves off. You can't just leave fucking lights on like in the olden days. It's not going to happen. He's like, okay, cool. So they spend a few minutes maneuvering all these cars over there. The ring is somewhat lit. I'm like, I told old boy with me doing commentary, I'm like, we're just having fun at this point because this video is not going to be usable. I mean, you're just going to see shadows in the ring moving around. But we're here. We're getting paid. Let's do it. So they got the lights pointing towards the ring. Get the ring announcer comes out. Hey, welcome to the debut show of Prestige Continental Pro Wrestling. Our opening match is Upbeat Xanders versus. Luckily, you really couldn't understand what he said, so secret was still safe. And just as they're making their way to the ring, the headlights on 3 of the 4 cars shut themselves off, and there's no one within 100 yards that has keys to the vehicles or knows how to turn them back on. So there's one car over here with one set of headlights that are pointing more at the apron of the ring than they are the inside of the ring. So Xanders and his opponent have what young kids would call a banger of a match. Not really, but they had an entertaining match. The crowd was into it. Here's the thing: there was about how many would y'all say? I'm horrible at guessing crowds, and I didn't do it.
I'd say 45. At that point, maybe 40 because they piled in. I mean, it's a bar show; they're going to pile in after. Right. But
so yes, Mark Bryson picked up. It was definitely, literally, the darkest dark match that has ever taken place inside a wrestling ring. But they had a heck of a match. They got a good reaction. At some points, Xanders was the baby face. At some points, his opponent was the baby face. At some point, they both had a lot of heat. I mean, it was well played. At one point, they made it out to the floor, and Xanders reversed a whip and threw his opponent into the fence as if it was a steel cage match, which I did not expect to see out of those two. And if you knew who the other opponent was, you would agree. But anyway, they went in the ring. Xanders pulled out a victory, and I know it's killing his soul right now to not say that he beat the person that he beat. I also know of about 3 people at least who are going to message me after this show and go, "Who was it?"
Perfect pin, by the way. I beat him with a perfect pin.
Well executed pin.
Dude, unfortunately, I will say I'm a little out of shape. I want to apologize to my opponent because I don't think I've ever been that winded, and I'm really fortunate that the cameras weren't working because I was sucking oxygen by the time I finally rolled out of it because I had to bridge. When you got a bridge, that's that last gasp after doing a drop kick, and I gasped on that one, and I got out and I was like, you can't hold my hands up. I gotta get to a seat. I was rough. It was rough on that one.
Yeah, it was luckily those fans were back behind the fence because if they'd have been close to the ring, they would have all suffered oxygen deprivation because Xanders was sucking up all the oxygen in the immediate vicinity. But there's no shame in that because they put on a heck of a match. Now, before we move to match number 2, and this comment's relevant because match number 2 featured this gentleman, Steve says, I would let Scott Morgan lay with my sister if I had a sister.
Steve Pleasing said he was at the show. Steve Pleasing is saying in the chat here that it was the best show he had seen in a long time. I thought Steve was there, but a lot of the fans kind of looked like Steve. So, and a lot of places I go in Alabama looks like Steve.
I'm not going to lie. I had my back to the crowd, but I thought I heard Steve on a number of occasions.
I heard he called Mako a B word.
Yes. There were 3 or 4 comments that we may or may not acknowledge during this recap that very well could have been Steve.
It very well.
If not, they would have been endorsed by Steve had he been.
If Mako can't make it in on the after the break, we might call we might try to see if we get Steve on the show to do a little synopsis. Maybe 5-minute synopsis of the show.
Just break down from an outside perspective of someone who wasn't on the show what he thought of the show.
The crowd was.
So, second matchup. Our friend Scott E. Morgan comes out to the ring, and his opponent is one of the what is it, WA4 or W4A? What's
yes.
A4.
You know the A4. Scott, do you know what song he came out to? Gene, do you know what song he came out with?
I was just racking my brain. I was going to acknowledge it, and then I couldn't remember what it was.
It was Young Jeezy's I Put On.
I didn't know what the song was, but as I heard it play, because okay, that's another fun fact from the Shane Mako debut show. They just went around with a notebook and told people to pick random shit off Spotify, literally in those words. And that's what happened. Yes, Charles Anders came out to "Cowboy" by Kid Rock. I thought Jeff Jarrett was fixing to come strutting out there, and here comes Xander strutting ass out there instead to "Cowboy."
And to be fair, I didn't pick my music. I just said, just pick something out.
Yeah, Scott.
I said, I'll come out to silence.
Music isn't Scott Morgan's.
Look, Mako did a great job at the show, by the way. Unfortunately, he's not there to take his victory lap, so he can.
Yeah, so we're going to shit on him instead. But by all means, he did a great job. We had a good time. Not to spoil things, but we did, as you can tell, or we would be sitting here mad right now. We wouldn't be laughing about Scott coming out to Young Jeezy. Jesus. So his opponent, again, one of the A4 students, whatever.
Scott, what was his name? Do you know?
His name was Justin the Dome.
The Dome.
That's pretty much all I got, man.
Okay, I couldn't make it. So another little fun tidbit here. Flashback to the New South shows when me and Smooth Pleasing had to do commentary with no run sheet. And so if it weren't people we knew, we had to rely on the ring announcer, which most of the time. So I asked Mako, I'm like, is there a card so we can know? He goes, well, you know these people. I said, I know Xanders, Scott, and blank. I don't, and you. And
Dawson.
And Dawson, yeah. I'm like, but a lot of these folks, I have no freaking clue. So he's like, well, we got a pretty good sound system, just listen for the announcer. I'm like, okay, cool. So of course, I mean, the people I knew, plain as day, coming to the ring, Scott Morgan and his opponent, Dome. I look at the other guy, like, what the fuck did he say?
Describe his attire, by the way.
He's like chromed. Okay. Jesus. Let's not. Anyway, moving on.
I had flashbacks to an older opponent of mine that also wore the same attire, and that's probably why he got his ass.
So wait, hang on. So
wait a minute. I didn't know if you were talking about the ring announcer or the wrestler.
No, the ring announcer. Not the ring announcer. The wrestler. The wrestler. I want to talk about the wrestler. Yeah. Do you want to describe the wrestler? I don't want to know about the ring announcer. I'm afraid to ask.
Well,
the way you laughed, I'd rather us talk about the Dome.
He was wearing a shirt that was too short, and his belly was hanging out of his shirt, and nobody clued him in. So just all night, this poor bastard was up there with his belly hanging out from under his shirt.
He did a great job.
And if he was another friend of ours, he would share that picture all over himself. But maybe he'll crop it, but maybe not.
Okay.
It was cropped.
I mean, I don't know what we were referring to, but anyway. So
Smokey, damn it.
What's Smokey doing here? He has his fingers on the trigger.
So, anyways, my opponent came out wearing I believe is a straight jacket, along with an aluminum foil hat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Straight jacket wasn't tied. He was wearing it like a jacket.
In case he needed just to have a straight jacket.
Yeah, in case he went crazy.
He needed his own, but the helmet was.
The rest of his tights and everything looked like it was from the Chris Crunk collection.
So Scott, are you sore because he was a big headbutt? Because I mean, like they were chanting "People Dome" and like
this kid apparently the only wrestler he's ever studied was the missing link because every bit of offense, defense, anything he did involved a headbutt. But the first thing he did after trying to get, and to his credit, I'll say this for those students. They were very good about getting crowd chant starting. They were very aware of getting the crowd involved. And I was impressed by that because usually young guys just getting started are all about the match they've called. They're sometimes not even aware the crowd's there. But he, right out of the gate, Dome, 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 and all this. And he put his tinfoil hat on top of Scott Morgan's head.
They also are very humble. Well, maybe not after putting the tinfoil hat on top of Scott Morgan's head. I was going to make the call that they were humble But then I didn't get to see the match because I was with the paramedics getting oxygen.
And I assumed that Scott's opponent was going to be soon to follow to come see the paramedics. Because when he put that on his head, I'm like, okay, this is going one of two ways. They called that, and this will be fine. Or he just did that on his own, and Scott is about to kill this poor kid right here with witnesses and a video, two video cameras on him at the same time. Now, one key element to this match, okay, they get started halfway through this match. Here comes a guy coming out. I thought it was a cross coming out at first. I'm like, what are we about to do here? But it was a large 10 to 12 foot light tower. And they crank this dude up, and holy crap. All of a sudden, everything is lit on the ring. And you suddenly can see this match between Scott and the Dome. Justin.
Unfortunately, you're not going to get to see Scott's. You're not going to get to see Scott's entrance with Young Jeezy.
Yeah, you won't get to see that, but you will see
Scott kick the crap
a wicked power bomb.
Oh my god! I didn't get to see this match, Scott. Why? Why are you hurting people?
A kick to the chest.
A suplex where you just dropped him. It wasn't like a safe drop. It was just. Did you not, Scott? Tell the audience. Tell us. Did you want to take that bomb?
No.
Okay, that was a piece of shit.
But hey, no. This kid is new. He's a student in wrestling. He is paying his dues, and getting powerbombed by Scott Morgan. That's paying dues right there, son. That's how you get it done. So don't be crying for this guy. He's fine. He was all right.
You think Scott was trained by Chuck the Truck? Scott, can you confirm nor deny that you were trained by the great Chuck the Truck out of Mississippi?
I can't deny that. But
okay.
I don't think that he was just. I don't think Chuck the Truck has ever trained anyone per se, but I do know that Chuck the Truck has been a mentor to him.
Yeah,
and
an idol, like somebody
coached him up.
An influence of some sort.
Yes, a bad influence.
Y'all have an email exchange. I get it.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, like y'all have to remember one of the crucial points of this is, I don't wrestle singles. This is my first singles match, and I couldn't tell you how long. Besides, like maybe
I could, but I won't.
Probably the second. It's the second.
I could tell you, but I won't.
Yeah, Scott, you have
match I've had.
You've had another
probably second one this year. Probably second one I've had probably in 3 years, technically. So
it was my favorite. I'll tell you that.
I'll be honest. I don't do as much as I used to. Whenever everybody looked at me for being this small guy, and I should be doing all this high flying stuff. I don't leave my feet. I don't run. I don't do a lot of things.
He doesn't bump.
So I mean,
people think we're joking, but if people who know Chuck the Truck and know who Chuck the Truck is for legit, and then watch Scott's singles matches or matches in general, they'll go like, "Oh, I see the influence." Because
if they don't,
Chuck the Truck didn't bump, he didn't run, he didn't.
He just beat the crap out of some.
He just hit people as hard as he could.
I will say that to credit to my opponent, my head is a little sore from all the headbutts that I did take from him. I will say the biggest pain that I have is currently in my knee, from where I took a spill to the outside of the ring onto big ass gravel.
Nice.
So my knee is a little swollen today, so it's pretty banged
large
up.
Gravel surrounding the ring, and I was utterly shocked when I seen Scott Morgan go between those ropes and then out to the floor and then go down to his knee. And I was like, crap, because he landed right on this big old rock that was out there.
I will say the only credit I will give to myself for the entire night out of that match was I was the only guy at any point that did not get cheered.
Yes.
I was booed the entire time. From the time I walked out, they did say some people were singing the song, but that wasn't to cheer me on. It was just because of the song.
Scott had no idea what they were singing either. Not a damn clue.
It was bumping. But no, I got booed the entire match, and I thought I'd be really nice. I helped the kid up after the match, and he kind of, I ended up kicking him and throwing him out of my ring. But I mean, to be fair,
which
he
made me happy because when you were helping him up, I'm like, "Oh, Scott, let's not do the sportsmanship crap." And then you nailed him. I'm like, "Yes,
I
that's
mean, to
more
be
like
There
fair,
it is.
he did put the hat on my head. I mean, that's what I had like a flashback to that. So I crushed the hat, and then I killed him. So, anyways, man, it was a successful night.
Is that it? I was about to say that's all you had was you won. Gene's comment was I heard Gene say in the crowd, or maybe he told me that was the only time. That wasn't the only time somebody had been given gonorrhea.
Yeah, so you finished him off with your finishing maneuver that people may or may not know. The name of your finishing movie is what?
The gonorrhea.
The
It's
gonorrhea.
The gonorrhea.
So
which
I had to
is-
tell
Jimmy
the
Ray. Jimmy
I had
Ray.
to tell
It
the
was-
yes
yeah,
to
it was
credit Jimmy
properly
Ray.
named by Jimmy Ray.
And so so I said, yeah, Scott Morgan just gave him the gonorrhea, and then I said, and I'm sure that's not the first time someone has been given the gonorrhea back behind this bar right here. And
That's the
I stand by,
commentary.
I
That's the
stand by that
commentary.
statement. That was on commentary. That wasn't just in the car on the way home.
So that's the commentary you have to look forward to.
So we're going to cover one more match,
let's
and then we're going to
finish.
go to commercial, just like we went to intermission at the show. So the
Oh.
next match was Shane Knowles, friend of the show, Shane Knowles, enemy in Kayfabe land, Shane Knowles, taking on a young man named Cujo, or the Cujo Show, as the ring announcer kept referring to him. And so little Cujo came out. He had a green sequin jacket.
Knowles also had one too, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting to. That's what I was going to get
Both of
at. Then Knowles had on a purple sequin jacket.
Hell of a tag team.
So this looked like the Battle of Mardi Gras going on right here.
I was going to say Christmas, but nice.
And so they took their sequin jackets off and they got down to business. And good heel work by Knowles. I always love to watch Shane Knowles be a heel, and this was no exception. He did a great job, and he ended up getting rolled up and pinned by Cujo. And then after the match, he was going to deliver a pile driver on Cujo. And Shane Mako come through the crowd and broke it up, stopped Shane Knowles from executing a pile driver. And then we proceeded to go on a 20-minute long intermission. Now we are about to go on a 3-minute long.
See how long this feels. See how long
not
this
20
feels
minutes, but when you
live.
feel how long this 3 minutes feels, imagine waiting 20 at the show. But I get it. It's a bar show. You
I
want
was
people
going
to
to
go
say, yeah.
drink. I get
I mean,
it, but
Knowles, by the way, Knowles should have had the opportunity to pile drive that kid. Is Mako not the bad? Like, I get it. Knowles, Knowles is more of a friend of the show than Mako. I'm just throwing that. I'm tossing that out there. I ran. I get it, man. Mako, Knowles maybe shouldn't have ran him up because it's his ring or whatever. But like, I'm kind of pro Knowles on this one. But I also apparently have a better conversation and easier time to get with Knowles. So that's neither here nor there.
hey, if I had to set the ring up in the afternoon heat, I would want to pile drive somebody too. But anyway, you can ponder that while we're in a commercial break. We'll
I'm sorry, Scott.
Right back. Are you looking to have a good time? Well, head on down to Happy Hour Comedy Club and Restaurant in Anniston, Alabama. Shoot you some pool, play you some darts, or head on over to the bar and get you a cold beer or one of them fancy cocktail drinks. They got all that. You hungry? Get you one of the best pizzas in Anniston or anything else off the menu. They got burgers, tacos, chicken wings, anything you want. Every Thursday night, they got open mic comedy and karaoke, and live comedy every Friday and Saturday night with some of the top comedians from across the United States. Go to happyhourcomedyclub.com for more information and tell them Whitey Jenkins sent you.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
You like barbecue? Well, of course you do, unless you're some kind of weirdo or wasn't raised right. So if you want to get some of the best barbecue around, check out P3 Barbecue. Our buddy David Estes does it up right, and he'll be glad to cater your next event or just send you some of his award-winning sauce right there to your own doorstep. Go over and check them out on the Facebooks at facebook.com/P3Barbecue or give old David a call at 901-679 3452 and tell them Whitey Jenkins sent you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school, but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Dangerous Dan Colley, the Professor Jimmy Street, and the Plastic Sheik Jared are the undisputed six-man tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This trio does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Get ready to get inspired. It's Xander's Inspirational Podcast, the brand new podcast with upbeat Xanders, as he has one-on-one podcast sessions that both inspire and inform. Check it out as Xanders has a one-on-one interview with some of your favorite people in and out of the professional wrestling business. Give it a listen on CheapHeatTVLive.com. It's the Old School Dives Pro Wrestling Podcast with Shane Knowles and Gene Jackson. Every episode, they will take a deep dive into old school professional wrestling. Pro wrestlers, events, all sorts of great topics will be covered every 2 weeks right here on Old School Dives. You can find it at CheapHeatTVLive.com and at YouTube.com/CheapHeatTV. It's Old School Dives with Shane Knowles and Gene Jackson. We were supposed to get to that last week, and we didn't. So I could tell we were going off the rails. So we want to go right into that video because we had some requests for it. So,
yeah,
Scott, what comes to mind when you see that video?
Karma.
Well, that was years ago. I was going to ask Scott what he thought about Knowles because you threw.
No, yeah. I threw my hands up because you're like, oh, well, Knowles put up the ring, so maybe he should have had the right to apologize. Dude, I put up that ring, so I had the right to powerbomb my opponent.
Oh, yeah, and I totally agree with that. I backed you up on that.
Yeah.
Xanders is the only one questioning why you powerbombed.
It wasn't the power bomb. It was also the suplex that you dropped him without helping him, and then
I put the
also
ring up.
kick.
I put the
How
ring.
many of those do you get? And
It means I won. I put the ring up,
won.
and I took the
Okay,
whole thing
fair.
down.
And he took it down. I can
not
attest.
the whole thing. Oh well.
I put in my dues last time, man. I don't want to hear.
Scott, hang on. I'm sorry, buddy. You're right. People should give you your flowers. We're not.
I
I
hate
want
that
flowers.
term.
I just want my money, man. Just give me my money.
So, all right. So, people have been asking me since that video resurfaced a week ago of you falling off that stage at a fair show somewhere in Tennessee. People want to know. I don't know if you're going to answer this or not.
It hurt.
All right, much like the speculation about the CM Punk media scrum. Was it a work or a shoot? Did you do that on purpose, or did you really fall your ass off the stage?
I would love to say that it was a word or a shoot. I'd love to say it's a shoot out of just pure luck and stupidity, but unfortunately, I'm probably dumber / talented. But yeah, that was definitely called. I'd actually asked the runner of said show, which is friend of the show, Jeremy Flint, if I could use the hay bales as the gimmicks, and he kind of he was like, yeah, sure. I mean, that's fine. I mean, they're just hay bales. We'll put them back up. I said, cool. I said, you need to watch though, because it's going to be different than you've ever seen before. And you see his fat little head peek around the corner whenever he's doing it. And that was actually friend of the show, Bradley Kane, was videoing that and sent it to me. And I finally got my hands on it and was able to kind of condense it down. That way I can keep it on file. And Cheap Heat can have it. You're welcome, Cheap Heat, for doing it. But, oh, man, I forgot. So Steve Pleasing was also there that night. And if things don't go correctly for the rest of the show, we might have Steve Pleasing tell the time that, yes.
Can we not have Steve Pleasing on the show next week to share some of these stories? Like, I want Steve on the show. I want him as a guest.
We'll
I've
have
been
him
on this
on.
for a year and a half, and he won't do it.
He
disappeared forever. I was like pushing for Steve, be on the show, and then all of a sudden he's like went AWOL for Well, not AWOL. It's a bad choice.
AWOL, man,
Not that guy, but
AWOL's wrestling hard, man. He had a main event last night.
I heard about that with Chip. Chip and Dale or whatever
Chip Day.
that guy's name is.
So we're continuing since we're over this whole video thing.
Okay, so I gotta say,
okay,
knowing you like I do, and the way you're always all about like staying in character and not giving shit away. Like I totally expect you to be like, yeah, man, I legit fell off that stage, and you're like, as much as I'd like to say it was a shoot, it was completely a work. And I asked Jeremy if he could. And I was like,
I was wondering which way it was going to go. Man. I was up on the.
I started.
I would
with
also bet, Scott. I would have bet the house that he was going to go. Oh yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't set something up, and then after the show, be like, why did you ask me that? You know, I'm not going to admit it was a word.
Kayfabe. Come on, man. Damn. Yeah, look, I'm later in my years and it hurts more. So I come in the next day and I'm a lot more angrier about like the snap mares I had to take the lap before. And so I took snap mares. That was pretty much all I took.
Yeah, I mean, he's falling off stages a couple of years ago and they're negotiating hip tosses last night.
Like we were best friends in that situation. We were besties, man. That was a good besties.
Speaking of kayfabe,
speaking of besties, man. Speaking of besties, in case anybody, you can probably hear me talk during the match. We had way too many people last night. We hit our quota of bald people on that show.
Yeah, there was a lot of those, man.
There was 4 entrances back to back that had involved with bald person.
Not me though.
Including Gene Jackson on commentary.
Gene, did you get an entrance?
And then we had had one later on, in the show that was also bald. So we definitely hit our quota last night. I was like, this has got to end.
Bald lives mattered last night in Montgomery.
Oh my God! What would be your what's your Spotify song that you're going to go to, G, whenever you come out?
Oh my God!
TNT.
I would just be like Scott, just like surprise me, and they'd play some shitty rap crap like that would make me mad.
It's just the truck.
Shut this off, you piece of shit.
I was just
I made him play it twice. Actually, he cut it short. I told him to turn it back on.
Okay, Dawson Campbell. Anyway, so let's go to the next match. Yeah, speaking of Dawson Campbell, because that's the next match.
We're going to talk about the next match, and then we're going to cover a couple of promotional things before we get to the
big main event
banger of a main event.
If we can get, I've messaged Mako like 15 times. 15 times I messaged Mako and just to see it.
Well, I mean, he's probably trying to physically recover from this.
I've got a lot of. I mean, I did notes. I got
WrestleMania main event they had last night.
So go ahead and let's talk about Dawson because
so semi-main event. It was the true Ash Hole. Is that what they call him?
Yes.
Ash Bennett taking on.
I think it's pure Ash Hole.
Or pure. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I don't want to screw that up.
Yeah.
The pure Ash Hole, which my co-commentator misunderstood that, and he was just calling him pure asshole the whole time. It worked.
Probably makes him happier. There's my
against our friend and sometime violent gentleman.
Kind of
the Dynasty, and they had what was intended to be, or originally said to be, a babyface match, which saw them at different times both get heat from the crowd. Has seen both of them get positive fan reaction from the crowd. One thing we failed to mention, I guess this is as good a time as any to bring it up. So Cujo came out, like I said, he had a Mardi Gras theme and he had these beads and he was throwing beads out, and they did a spot where he was trying to throw beads around Shane Knowles' neck. And I don't know if that spot was supposed to end in him actually ringing one, but that never happened. He just kept missing. And of course, I was making comments on commentary about how Shane was upset that he don't know where them beads have been, but whenever beads are involved, they've either been around somebody's neck or somewhere else. And anyway, so later,
I was trying to get to the mute button
quicker. Somehow some beads got involved in Dawson and the Ash Holes match, and Dawson slammed Ash to the mat and the beads got broken, and that's when things started getting, business would have picked it up, as Jim Ross would have said had he been there. And so then the other commentator, Tyler Fumby, I guess I should say his name. He's a local comedian there in Montgomery. Pointed out that like beads had been the focal point of several matches during the night, which was questionable. But anyway, but like I said, it was a good match. It was kind of like I said, the storytelling of it at different times. You seen the crowd support Ash. You seen the crowd support Dawson. You seen Dawson act like a baby face. You seen Dawson act like a complete fucking asshole heel. Same for Ash. But I thought it was fun. I thought it showed range on both their parts. But the biggest thing that I liked about it, as I told them and told y'all on the way home, was just the fact that the crowd went with them.
Yeah.
They reacted accordingly to what was happening in the ring, which meant they were paying attention. They were following the story, and that's all that matters, really. You know what I mean? Like you can pick apart the psychology of it and whether that's what you should do or not do or whatever. But like, if they go and tell a story and the crowd follows along and they cheer at the end, you've done your job. You entertain the crowd. So, what was your take on that?
It's the same with a lot of those guys, because I mean that crowd would have been entertained super easily, and Scott knows me, and me and Scott's done those kind of shows before, and it's been one of those things where me and him went out there and was like, hey, let's go do it, and have the crowd follow us and all that other stuff. But it's sometimes on those kind of shows, if there's not a follow up or anything like that, man, it was probably not the best to. Boy, they sure beat the crap at each other. I bet both of them, if both of them aren't feeling it tomorrow, give them about 5 years of doing that crap, and they're feeling it today, tomorrow, the next day. I'm feeling it, and I didn't.
Well, I mean, but that's why you got to have young kids on the show, because you got to have some guys that are still willing to go out there and beat the crap out of each other and aren't cynical and like, we're taking it easy or not, brother, because there's 40 people out there and it's a bar show. They're going to react anyway. Brr.
Now, hang on, taking it easy, because I want to ask about that, because I can promise you, after my match, I did not feel like I took it easy. I felt like I had
but at the same time, you're basically saying you're insinuating that they didn't have to go as hard as they did, whether you're talking about laying in blows. That's or whatever it is you're referring to.
We also didn't have the lighting or the time, because they went a good while, and man, they worked their tails off. It was
but you got to admit, okay, from their perspective, this is a first time show for a friend of theirs.
Yep.
On a show with 5 matches and 10 guys on the card. So there is a pressure. And they're in their head, they're semi-main event, so that's somewhat of a big deal. So in their head, there's a pressure to deliver above and beyond expectations, and so I think it's commendable that they went out and did that.
I talked to Dawson pre and post match, and we had some conversations, and he would go out there and watch, and he did the right thing. I mean, like, it's hard for me to knock because I was opener, and I got to kind of set the precedent for whatever I wanted to do. But he saw the intensity that everybody else brought. And Scott definitely brought it. And Knowles, from my all understanding, seemed to have brought it. So Dawson had the mindset he was going to bring it. He was going to be semi-main. And if that was the case, he was going to perform to where the main event, which we'll talk about later, was going to have to be as hard-hitting and impactful as possible for the crowd to even be there.
Here's what I liked about the show, and I don't know if this was by design. I mean, Mako may be a lot smarter of a booker than anybody gives him credit for. But in my opinion, and you guys can say if you feel differently, I felt like most every match brought a little something different. Like the opener, you guys had a big, especially when your opponent's going to be involved, there's going to be a big entertainment aspect to it, which was, I think, made it the perfect match to start the show because it kind of grabs the crowd, it gets them involved, and so yours was heavy on entertainment. Not to say that y'all didn't work hard, all that.
Well, like our work rate was in a different design,
but it was more character driven. Where the second match, Scott Morgan was going to bring more intensity, more hard hitting, stiff power bombs and suplexes, and like a harder hitting match more so than just now. No doubt the fucking Chrome Dome guy is a character driven gimmick. Not to say there was no character work there, but it's a completely Scott Morgan. You have to agree. I mean, I've seen Scott make a couple of faces there, but you have to agree that Scott Morgan versus Chrome Dome compared to Xander's versus his opponent, two different matches, which is good because you saw
end of the
one thing in this
spectrum.
match. You saw something totally different in this match. Now let's go to match number 3. Shane Knowles comes out. He's old school heel. He takes the mic. He cuts a promo before the match. Oh, is this the best you can do from Montgomery, Alabama? You bunch of hicks. And he knocks all the women. And so he cut an old school heel promo, which made him the heel. Then you had the little guy who was the baby face, you rah, I'm throwing beads, and it's the Cujo show. And he was getting people to chant his name, and they did, which felt different than the first 2 matches. Then you had the quote-unquote babyface match that got intense at different times. And like I say, they both kind of swapped roles a couple times. Felt very different than the first 3 matches. And then the main event was different than the other matches and in a few different ways that we'll discuss when we get around to talking about the main event here in a minute. So, again, that may have all just been a happy accident. It may have just happened that way. Or Mako may be,
a genius.
and he did it by design.
Good for him.
But anyway, it went. I think it was a good show for that environment, for that crowd. If I look at other shows I've been to in recent times, I don't think you could plug in a lot of matches I've seen on other shows into that crowd, into that environment, and it do as well as what those matches did then and there. At the same time, if you pull that show as a whole out and plug it in over here in another environment, what it has done as well. I don't know, probably in some aspects, some of those matches would have, some of those matches wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Some of those characters might not have got over in front of people who were stone sober that were there to see wrestling. Maybe they would have, but
maybe.
The question's going to be, where does he go from here? Because I feel like he's going to come back. The venue was very happy. With everything about it.
The crowd was unbelievably responsive during the show, and even for Dawson, and we're going to talk about the main event, but I've got, like I said, I got a whole slew of notes, so I'm going to say briefly, I got to sit on it, which I don't really get to do that often. Normally I'm politicking or doing something like that. I got to sit on the hood of a car and watch a probably 15-minute, what the kids call bangers nowadays, and a very story-driven match and a very long-winded contest that went for a good minute or a good minute. So, I was happy to say the fans were intrigued. As we were leaving, there were fans piling in because we were done by 9:00. The fans were still piling in, and if they would have seen the Dawson and Ash Bennett match, I'm sure they would have been clamoring for more. So, it was one of those. There's definitely a crowd there for it. And everything I heard from around other than Mako, because once again, I didn't get to talk to Mako much. He's avoiding my contacts, obviously. Every time I try to get in touch with him, he's just not going to answer. But the fans seem to enjoy it, and the ownership seem to enjoy it. So maybe Mako can pull it off. And
I heard a lot of people. People came up to me talking, how much they enjoy the show, walking around in the fenced-in area. I heard different people talking about how fun it was and what a good show it was. As 3 guys who have to travel 3 hours to get there, none of us wants to say this, but probably being a bar show, you would do better starting it later.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, there were still people, there was twice the amount of cars after the show in the parking lot as there was during the show, just because people don't head out to the bar at 7:00, but that's not for us to worry about or decide. Before we get around to talking about the main event, though, let's cover some things, because I know we sometimes get carried away, and then the end of the show's here.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow us on social media there at CheapHeatTV Live, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. YouTube now is actually, you can go to CheapHeatTV.tinyurl.CheapHeatTV, I think is where it's at now. But the easiest thing to do to find everything is CheapHeatTVLive.com. And a reminder that next Saturday night, September 24th, me and Shane Mako will be making our return to EPW. I hope, if Shane Mako shows up. He's not here tonight, but I have to believe he'll be in Boonville next week.
Maybe he
along
can
with
wake up
me.
by then.
And that cool guy there flexes his muscle, who I don't know who he is, but he's going to be there.
Zach
Yeah.
Ryder? Was that Zach Ryder?
I don't think it was Zach Ryder. And then
Oh.
this guy will be there as well. So you don't want to miss that.
Smokey! I was about to say, I was going to ask, like, so I did really well. Gene hasn't put me over yet, but I'm going to put myself over real quick. I did really well at promoting the podcast last night. And I got on the mic. I was like, go follow everybody. This is the greatest. Look, guys, for real, it takes like 10 seconds. Get on your YouTube. If you kick your kids off the phone for a few seconds, go to YouTube, type in Cheap Heat TV, subscribe. You're on Facebook. It takes no time. Please, guys. This helps us more than you realize. Like, we try to share it. It's not exactly our strongest suit, but we all have jobs, and we're also still beating guys on the weekend. So it's and once again, you know, Mako's not here, but week in, week out, you know, we take vacations, but here we are. Help us out a little bit. This is the smallest thing we ask y'all to do. We don't ask y'all to donate. We don't ask y'all to buy stuff. We just ask y'all to just let us know that you're enjoying the show. So thank you ahead of time. But you know, there's my
I was gonna talk about when we get there. But to his credit, fresh off an injury angle, where the ring announcer's like, "Fans, we don't know the
extent.
We don't know the extent of the injuries to this gentleman, but." We will try to get answers for you as soon as possible for the next Prestige Continental Wrestling show. And have a safe trip home. Thanks for coming out. And then as I'm walking away, all of a sudden I go, hey, everybody, make sure you check us out tomorrow night on Cheap Heat TV Live. It's on Facebook. You can see us there every Sunday night. Cheap Heat TV Live. Thanks. And the ringmaster's like, Cheap TV. He's like, Cheap Heat TV. So then I don't have a microphone, but I just scream over everybody. It's on Mako's page.
It was one of those.
Everybody
shows.
there knew Mako, or at least if they didn't know Mako, they know some dude named Michael, who I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't met him yet, but he's probably as unreliable as Mako. So,
but you got to get. I mean, you got to talk about this main event. I mean, this thing was something else. I mean,
I wanted to ask Scott if he had one, because that's how we're going to end it. I want everybody. It's probably going to go over. I mean,
yeah, it's going to have to, because I mean, to talk about.
I mean, the dude took a pile driver.
Hopefully Smokey will allow us to go.
Well, he better have paid the Cheap Heat subscription this month to where it'll be something that we can actually air and it won't get cut off like WCW back in the day. It's just but he showed me screenshots of his payments for it, so I'm not worried about it. Scott, what did you think about like your final thoughts of the show before we hit this Takiri Mako match?
I mean, I agree with what everybody's basically been saying. I think the way everything got laid out and actually came to happen, it was probably the best way it could have actually went together. From the wrestling of Charles Anders and his opponent to my match was a little bit more dominant to Shane Knowles' match, where he was also dominant and then ended up losing, unlike me. Dawson Kimbrell, who we always love, hit this fantastic modified DDT. Looked like he broke the kid in half. Was a great match. But I also, Xanders, you do know this, I got to work double duty last night at the show. After going into the main event, I actually got to do music and the ring bell and all this other stuff. So I got to enjoy the match from afar, technically. But yeah, the whole show was really good.
All right, Gene. So I want to start the Mako match. Do you want me to like start it? Like, can we do individual big screens, or do you want to do like us three reacting to how we kind of talk about this? Because I'm up for it.
I mean, you were over there laying on the hood of the car with Ash Bennett,
having a polite, unbelievably polite conversation. Kayfabe.
So I think if we could just pull you up on the screen and you could just really paint a picture for everybody.
Well,
and set the stage of just how huge of a main event this was.
Okay, I've got notes and stuff, and me and Ash had a wonderful conversation. But Smokey, if you don't mind just taking everybody off the screen except for me, and then we'll swap up and let Gene go, and then thank you. It was the Mako. I mean, this is Prestige Continental's main event. I know I'm setting it up, but Gene and Scott won't set it up that bad, is what I'm going to do. Let me get my notes. So, Mako came out, and this is after a show's been, it's been pretty hot for a minute. But here comes Mako, and then all of a sudden, like, then you see him hit the